Back live tonight here on In Focus. There are growing calls for government to upskill zamas with artisanal mining skills as efforts to curb illegal trade gains momentum. Mineral Resources Minister Gwede Mantashe, however, has slammed the suggestion, saying the move would deprive citizens of opportunities in a sector which is dominated by undocumented migrants. For more on this, we're joined now by Kgothatso Nhlengetwa, who's with the National Association of Artisanal Miners. You're weighing in tonight on that conversation. Should government invest in the upskilling of zamas to deal with the illegal mining scourge in South Africa? 072-110-5584. Kgothatso, good evening. Good to have you, and thank you for your time.
Evening, Tabo, to you and your viewers, and thank you for having me today.
So if we are to take that statement by the minister step by step, the first claim that it makes is that most of the zamas, or would you say artisanal miners, are foreign nationals. What is your data telling you?
Okay, first of all, before I begin, let me just clarify between the two. And this is where us and the minister agreed, is that there's a difference between artisanal mining and zama mining. Zama mining is invasive, illegal mining where human trafficked, usually Lesotho and Mozambique nationals, go underground in old, misused and odorless and dialect mines. So that's very different from artisanal mining, which is usually more community-based and in some cases traditional-based.
So now, as the National Association, I'm going to give you a chance to continue, of artisanal miners, you draw a distinction. I tell you what, because somebody had a conversation with me the other day and they said, no, in fact, we should never call them zamas. This is all artisanal mining. But you're saying yourself as an organization, you draw a distinction between the two.
Yes, us as an organization, we definitely draw a distinction because we believe that you cannot necessarily legalize zama mining simply because it's syndicate-based and it goes so high up that even some political figures, influential people, and even some people working in banks, people working in world trade are all involved in this very high ranking system of zama mining, whereas artisanal mining is literally subsistence mining where people are just trying to put food on the table. So that's why we make the difference, the distinct difference, because if you think about it, you can upskill an artisanal miner most definitely because they're on the ground trying to feed their family, whereas it's difficult for you to upskill a already exploited human trafficked individual who is in a syndicate that's run by kingpins.
So the question is, how would you tell the difference? Because if, for example, we look at the situation right now, somebody says you have zamas even operating in mines that are still operational. So everybody goes down the shaft. And when you are down there, you can't tell who is there in a legitimate way and who is down there, who is a zama. Now, if we are saying we are bringing artisanal miners into the picture, how do you tell between an artisanal miner and a zama?
First of all, a zama are the people that go down into those illegal shafts. So anybody who is going down into illegal gold mines into large-scale gold mines that have either been abandoned or are ownerless or even operational, you've got a 90% chance that those people are syndicate-based and are being exploited because they're poor and not necessarily that they are the kingpins. So when you talk about an artisanal miner, this is when you usually find that it's in communities where you find that chiefs have okayed the community to mine, where you find that miners and women are mining together. You find that there's even gender roles within the mining activities. So if we actually take the time to have research and to actually look at what is artisanal mining and what is zama mining, we'll be able to draw these distinctions much clearer.
I'm going to come to you in what skills you think these small-scale mining practitioners would need. But let's talk about then what the MMC for Community Safety in the city of Johannesburg says. It says, you find that, yes, there are artisanal miners there, but even they are in danger because they could be doing their artisanal mining, and when they go out there, then there are, as you're saying, these syndicates with guns, who then rob them of what they could have harvested at the time. So are we not putting even those people in danger by wanting to promote this activity of artisanal mining?
They are definitely in danger, Thabo. It's been very well known and sometimes even documented that you have syndicate zama groups clashing with normal artisanal miners who are just maybe mining tailings, for example, because that is usually an artisanal mining activity as opposed to going underground. So you do find that there are these clashes and there are these dangers. One thing you must know about zama miners is that gang affiliation is quite predominant there. And so if you are not getting in line as an artisanal miner for a certain ground that they might feel is rich in the ground, and now they want to take over it, you might definitely be in danger. And these are the common challenges that we see when we do research on the ground.
So do you support the view that says 6,000 holes that are being illegally mined, or at least that are being used to access abandoned mines across the country, are impossible to completely shut down? It will never happen that they'll be completely shut. You know,
Thabo, this statistic has been there since I started my master's in 2013. When I was doing research, the Council for Geoscience had done this research, I think it was a year or two before. So this statistic is actually over 10 years old. So in the past 10 years, are you telling me that we haven't even been able to take down that number of 6,000? So I think besides capacity, yes, there is a shortage of capacity and resources, as the minister had mentioned. But I think there's also a lack of political will that also plays a role here. Because if there was political will, there could be a combination and a collaboration between the Department of Mineral Resources, the security cluster, and the Minerals Councils, for example, who deals with large-scale mine. They put their resources together and they can be able to do this in a way that is fast, efficient, and can benefit people, including job creation, because some graduates who can be used as mine surveyors, as geologists, and as engineers on this closing of shafts can actually even be used. So I think, Thabo, really it's just it's a lack of thinking outside of the box on part of our government and on part of our stakeholders.
Let's talk then about the complement of skills that would need to be introduced at that small scale level that you think could improve the livelihoods of artisanal miners.
Yeah, first of all, I mean, health and safety is one of the most important aspects, Thabo. You can't expect to produce any mineral if you're going to produce it while at the risk of people's lives. So I think first and foremost, it would be about cleaner production, teaching them health and safety procedures, how to mine safely. If it's an open cast, how to have a certain procedures in an open cast. If it's an underground mine, to do pillar support, for example. Second of all, bookkeeping, and a lot of people think this is a skill that most people know, but most informal or most artisanal miners have a lack of education. So giving things like bookkeeping, things like corporate governance for the cooperatives that they're forming, things like business management, that's also important. Those are the softer skills, but they're quite important. And also extraction techniques, because some of the people, especially those used in the gold industry, are still using mercury, which is dangerous to their health. So instead of using mercury, they can use the borax method. So maybe some training on using the borax method. And training not just done by one entity, because Mintech is an example of an entity that can be called. The Minerals Council can also be called for funding. Some of the stakeholders where we have artisanal miners like Harmony, like Sibanye in that area, even in the areas of chrome where we have Impala and some of those mines, we can see that the best thing for us to do is to actually have a coordinated approach to upskilling where everybody plays their role.
So somebody might say, okay, we hear what you're saying. You are advocating for the formalization of this informal sector. What proof do you have that this will work? If any, right? Instead, many are saying this will just open the floodgates. We already have porous borders. It will just be creating a whole situation for illegal immigrants to flood into the country.
You know, I wish there was a good example, even in the African or even the South American context, which is where artisanal mining is participated in the most. I wish there was an example that says this has been formalized and this is great, but there's no country that has done that, but there have been only particular projects that have done that. For example, there's the Moyo project in Tanzania, where the women sell gemstones, and the gemstones are produced by them, the gemstones are evaluated by them, and the gemstones are exported by them, and they get access to market. So there is some proof in particular projects, but not in particular countries. But what can we do to make it work, right? So we say we haven't seen it work. So what are the loopholes of making it work? First of all, the policy might be great, but then it's the implementation of that policy that is the key. We must be able to know that the capacity to implement the policy, even if we promulgate regulation and we say, okay, we have an act for artisanal and small-scale mining. If we don't have the capacity of the people on the ground, it's not going to work, because artisanal mining is usually transient and people in artisanal mining flow from one side to the other. So if we don't have that capacity, it might not work. And then the second thing, we find that there's disjointedness between national government and regional government. So even when you find artisanal miners want to be formalized, they're getting their paperwork, they're trying to do their bookkeeping, they're trying to show their finances, and they get to regional level knows nothing about what's happening at national level with the new policy. So these are some of the bottlenecks that we must sort out if we really want to have a good try at this formalization thing. Yeah.
Do you think you're going to have a tough sell then with the minister if you cannot present proof of success anywhere except for a single project?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, what you need to understand about artisanal mining is that it's an emerging sector that has been having its complications for a very, very long time, not only in Africa, but globally. And I think for him to write it off and just say no, because there's no success, we're not going to be able to upskill artisanal miners, it will really be writing off a potential of uplifting the economy. Because we are not talking about uplifting syndicates. That's something that I want to make vehemently clear. NAM is not calling for upskilling zama miners who are syndicate-based, but rather we are calling for upskilling those artisanal miners that are currently getting themselves into cooperatives. We've got so many branches that are getting themselves into cooperatives, which, by the way, is what the policy states we should do. So we've got them, going into cooperatives, organizing themselves. But if government can't meet us halfway and help us with the upskilling and help us with the equipment that's needed and help us with governance and help us also with the fact that we need health and safety and, maybe working with the Mine Health and Safety Council. So we need a collaborative approach, and we're not just calling DMRE. We are calling to all the stakeholders. Right. We are calling to the Ministers' Council. We are calling to the Department of Home Affairs to help with our members that need to be legalized, for example. So that's what we are calling for.
Kgothatso, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming. Unfortunately, we are out of time there. That's Kgothatso Nhlengetwa, representing National Association of Artisanal Miners.